Hey, this is Matt. Once again, welcome back to another video. This is a paid request from Carson. Thank you so much for that. If anyone wants to request any type of movie review or re-review, random thoughts, streams, commentaries, video game playthrough, tier list ranking, random thoughts, movie news, reaction, whatever the tier list, whatever the case may be, PayPal is the best way to do it. Do have a Cash app as well. Links are down in the info box, and I will get to it as soon as I possibly can. And this is for the Flintstones and Viva Rock Vegas. Now, before I get to the movie, let me just build up a bit. The Flintstones, I remember the cartoon. I did not grow up with it. But I have seen snippets throughout the years. I, of course, know them through all of the references, and I've seen clips after clips throughout the ages. Yabba Dabba Doo, the theme song, Barney, Fred. I did review, I think it was a Flintstones Halloween thing. I believe it's on the channel still. That was a request. I liked it for what it was, where I think it was Wilma, I want to say Dracula wanted her, like wanted to date her and stuff, I think. I could be wrong, because my memory's not the best. But it was pretty much the stoned age, or stone, not stoned, although maybe some people make this film more a bit stoned. Think of the honeymooners in the Stone Age, because Fred is definitely trying to be Jackie Gleason. Barney, Art Carney. And I'm sure Fred, to the moon, Alice, to the moon, Wilma. Like you get that vibe from the cartoon. Do you remember back in the day, they actually had the characters do advertisements for smoking? Go on YouTube, check it out. Type in the Flintstones smoking. Yes, the Flintstones would sell cigarettes. So, how times have changed. Could you imagine fucking Zootopia? The bunny and the fox smoking a joint. Ooh, do some THC, you know. Hell of a thing. If you're seeing all sorts of furry people around you, get stoned. Or you may already be stoned. Or you'll wish you're stoned. But, nothing against people who are furries. I'm making a joke. Hey, I'm a furry too, see? Right here. Right there. Anyway, stupid jokes. I know I make these stupid jokes, but this film had a lot of stupid jokes too, so it fucking fits. Long story short, I do remember the first movie in 1994. John Goodman, Rick Moranis, Rosie O'Donnell. I'll be honest, I don't like the first movie. I never really did. I like John Goodman. I like Rick Moranis. But I hated the story of that film, where it becomes this fucking executive ploy where, okay, they switch the tests and then Fred gets the promotion when really Barney should have, and about office politics, because that's what I want to see the Flintstones for, all fucking office politics. And Fred being this greedy, selfish bastard, more so. I mean, you say there's elements of that. No, even more so. And Barney and Fred hating each other for a good chunk of the movie and not being friends with each other. I'm like, this is fucking fun? And office politics and them being rich snobs? Why the fuck do I want to see that for Flintstones? Anything, let alone a movie. Maybe an episode of a TV show, because you still got all the shows before and after it. It's only 20 minutes long. But for your first full-length film, I just thought that was a weird stretching for the story. Some good-looking props, set design. So I don't hate the film, but I'm just not a fan of it for those reasons. Although, again, John Goodman, Rick Moranis, and the set design. And Halle Berry's pretty hot in it, too. But I know John Goodman did not want to do that film. He did because Steven Spielberg pretty much pressured him into doing it. When John Goodman did that film Always, Spielberg stood up and said, "Gentlemen, I found my Fred Flintstone." and that was what, 89. So by 94, Spielberg's producing it, and he's like, I don't want to piss off Spielberg because he was the king of Hollywood, so he did that. But I'm sure he had fun working with Rick Moranis, but you know, he didn't give a shit about the Flintstones, and he didn't want to be the cartoon character. The film made a lot of money. That's why I'm building this up. That film made a lot of money. I still remember going to, was it McDonald's, and they had like these glasses, like cups. I want to say it was McDonald's, and it was like I'm sure merchandising wise, box office wise, it did fairly well. And the studio wanted to make sequels. In fact, what Universal wanted to do was 2 sequels back to back, like they did with Back to the Future. Back to the Future 2 and 3, we'll do the Flintstones 2 and 3. And John Drummond said, fuck no. Fuck no, I'm not doing that. I did it once for Spielberg. I'm not doing it again. I'm sure he would have gotten a big payday because you're doing 2 films and, hey, you know, the idea me more, but I guess for him it's like it's not enough. No. And then really nobody came back. Rick Moranis did not come back. Rosie O'Donnell, she's in this, but not as you think, which is a good thing because I'm not a Rosie O'Donnell fan. The woman who played Wilma didn't really. Not much of anybody came back. So they're not going to do the sequels. So some time went by. Because that was 94. This came out in 2000. And then the director of the first Flintstones, Brian Levant, who also did Jingle All the Way, which I do like. I think that's his best film. I think that's a fun movie. Beethoven, I don't mind. But he also did The Spy Next Door and some other crap. He said, well, let's do a prequel. And I guess because the first one made so much money, apparently they put like $83 million into this. I was astonished. Now, when I watched the film, there is some good puppetry work and some interesting set design to give you the feel of the cartoon. I'll give you that. I thought this was a direct-to-video movie. I always thought this was a direct-to-video film, like George of the Jungle 2 or some of the other shit. The fact this was an $80-some million theatrical film, it blew my fucking mind. And I just found that out watching this. Well, I saw a couple days ago. I'm like, what the fuck? I always thought this was a direct-to-video one, but no. And it bombed. I think it made 60-some million worldwide. Because it's been 6 years since the first one. You don't have the cast come back. You go from John Goodman to Mark Addy, which people didn't know who he was. He was in The Full Monty, which was a thing for 15 minutes. Now, it's not a bad film, but not a lot of people remember The Full Monty or talk about it. When was the last time someone talked about The Full Monty? Stephen Baldwin, who just got off, Biodome? That classic. Kristen Johnston, who was on the TV show Third Rock from the Sun, which I think that was around at this time. I can't remember when that debuted. Let's see, Joan Collins was in it as Wilma's mom. Thomas Gibson, who I remember from Dharma and Grey, he was also on the show Criminal Minds. He's here as the villain in the movie. Alan Cumming is Gazoo, the Great Gazoo, character from the cartoon. Harvey Korman's in it, which I can't remember if he was in the first one or not, because I haven't seen the first one in forever. Rosie O'Donnell is in the film, but the voice of an octopus. Because there's an octopus that massages Betty and Wilma, and it's Rosie O'Donnell. She has like 1 or 2 lines. Thank God, because again, I'm not a fan of Rosie O'Donnell. Oh, and if you, in like a 40-second scene, John Cho from Harold and Kumar, this is before he did that stuff. I think by this point he was in American Pie, some of those films. He's here as a valet. And I'm trying to remember, there might be other people I recognize, but those are the only ones I can think of right now. And it's a prequel where we find out how Fred and Barney met Wilma and Betty. The Great Gazoo is sent to Earth by his people, kind of like a punishment, but also to look into the mating rituals of Earth. Which, for what I remember in the cartoon, he was not there for mating rituals, he was there for other things. So he wants to know the mating rituals, so he follows Barney and Fred, who were just getting their diplomas to be a dinosaur crane operator. And they're thinking of, wishing to meet someone. While that's happening, Wilma runs away from her rich family because they're trying to force her to marry this person she doesn't want to. She ends up at this wannabe Burger King, because that's what it's trying to be, but it's called Bronto King, but it's supposed to be Burger King, because they literally have like BT on there. And Betty is a waitress there. She helps out Wilma, gets her a job there. Fred and Barney come there. They meet. First, Barney and Fred and Betty don't get together, and they go to this carnival amusement park thing. But then quickly they realize, no, Fred, you go with Wilma, and Betty goes with Barney. And it goes from there. So it shows a bit of a love story, how they get together, they like each other. Then Fred is intimidated by Wilma's family, who's wealthy. Thomas Gibson wants to marry Wilma because he's a casino guy who owes all this money, and if he marries Wilma, he'll get the family fortune and pay off his debt to the mob or whatever. So in order to do that, he's got to screw over Fred, get him to gamble, lose his money, get Wilma pissed at him, take all his money, and then eventually marry Wilma. Fred and Barney get framed, put in jail, escape. Fred tells Wilma how he truly feels, apologizes. Things work out for the best. They get married. Yabba dabba doo. Why did I tell the whole plot? Because I felt like it, and just to give you a summation. And I'm not going to give a shit about spoilers for a goddamn prequel fucking Flintstones movie from the year 2000, 25 years ago. Get mad at me all you want, oh well. Okay, in all honesty, did I think this was the most useless pile of shit? No. I'll say this, Mark Addy and Stephen Baldwin, I think they give decent impressions of Barney and Fred and Barney, voice-wise. Not so much look-wise, but voice-wise, I think they give a decent amount of impression from both of them. Like, if I close my eyes, I could hear the characters in their voices. I can. They don't have as much of the star power presence of John Goodman and Rick Moranis, but the impressions are all right. I didn't hate them. They made Barney a bit dumber than he is, but maybe because it's Stephen Baldwin, so they assume that. Because he was in Biodome. Also, I know Brian Levant and Stephen Baldwin, they did not like working with each other, because Brian Levant there was some interview he did where when Arnold was on set doing All the Way, he knew all his lines. When Stephen Baldwin was on set, Stephen Baldwin would go, "So what are we shooting today?" So, take that for you will. Kristen Johnston, she was a bit out of place as Wilma. I'll be honest, sometimes I'm like, she seems a bit like a dude to me, like Chyna from WWE a little bit, but I don't know. I thought the lady that played Betty was nice, was cute. and way better than Rosie O'Donnell. So much cuter, actually good looking, and so less annoying than Rosie O'Donnell. That's a huge upgrade. The girl who plays Betty. I'll give you that. And I mean, I'm being mean to Kristen Johnson's Wilma. She's there, in all fairness, she's there. But she didn't really sound like Wilma. She didn't seem like Wilma. I would say of the four, she was kind of the kind of off-kilter casting for me. But could I deal with it? Yeah. Because I don't mind her as an actress. I liked her in Third Rock from the Sun, the few bits I've seen. So, I've seen much worse casts than these four. I truly have. Trust me. The writing is the weakest part of the film. I do think the film, even though it's a short movie, 80-some minutes long, it still feels long. Because it feels like there's padding. It feels like there's not enough story there. It takes a bit too long to get to Viva Rock Vegas, which is the title of the movie. And the villain, his reason, I mean, I get it, it's based on a cartoon. Are you really expecting that deep of a plot? But it just felt very... I don't give a shit quality of a plot, if that makes sense. Them getting together and kind of falling for each other, that was a little bit interesting for me. Because I don't think the actors did a bad job. I really don't. I like the look of the film in terms of the set design. Now, there's some CG effects that are pretty iffy. And some stupid jokes. I mean, within 10 minutes, there's a goddamn dinosaur fart joke where, as they're doing their test to be a dino crane operator, Fred's doing that, and Barney, Stephen Baldwin, oh, here's one of the dinos' aching tummy. She's gonna blow. And there's a big fucking fart, and they blow away. It's like a brontosaurus. Well, you expect to have like 3-4 whatever stomachs. That was stupid. But I liked some of the designs I thought kind of fit with the cartoon. And if you get mad at that, then you have to get mad at the cartoon. Like, I was looking up just information. I saw like a clip from Nostalgia Critic and going, Nostalgia Critic was like, oh my god, they have something that looks like a camera. Which is like some stone thing, and there's like a piece of glass that she's looking through. And I'm sitting there going, dude, that was the Flintstones cartoon all the fucking time. How do we do shit here that's reminiscent of modern time, but is used with stone age technology? They did that shit all the fucking time on the Flintstones. If that's what you get mad at, then you don't know the fucking Flintstones. And I'm not an expert, but come on. There are things to complain about, but that's a stupid fucking thing to complain about. Oh my god, there's something that looks like a camera? Yeah, it's a thing that someone's looking with like a crystal in it. Shut up. Sorry, I don't like Nostalgia Critic. This is not a good film, but come on. There's other things to complain about. Like the stupid fucking fart jokes and other shit. Thankfully, there's not a whole lot of those. You know, the Burger King product placement, oh, I'm sorry, Bronto King, it was very obvious, very blatant. And I get like they're trying to, hey, you say it didn't being a parody, so what makes it a parody and not? What would a Burger King be back in the day? A Bronto King. Does it be Brontosaurus, So, I get what they're doing with that. But an actual complaint? The Great Gazoo. First off, the design was like, it's a small alien, but you got Alan Cummings' face, and then the other aliens, because you see them all together at the beginning before he's sent off, forced into this mission. Their nightmare fuel looks ugly. It's a terrible design. They're trying to be like the cartoon, but at the same time, you know what? You did not need the Great Gazoo. Yes, I know he was in the cartoon, No one's going to miss him. No one said, I want that. No one says, I'm crying out for that. And it did not look that great visually. Alan Cumming, his performance was a little bit grating. And at the end of the day, the character was completely pointless. Okay, if should I say okay, maybe not completely. 98% pointless. It's mating ritual. I need to see it. He just looks, says a few lines, at times disappears for good chunks of the movie, says something that they ignore him and they don't tell him anything. They don't listen to him. Multiple jokes of, it's the Great Gazoo, not Kazoo. And I'm trying to think. He doesn't really bring, like, you could do an edit and cut his character out and it would not affect much of anything. There's one moment that he shows some footage that he recorded of Thomas Gibson saying something to give Fred and Barney some information. But hell, you could have had, I don't know, a fucking secretary or the bird. Like, there's a bird that Thomas Gibson has that he does that kind of flies to hit a button and come back. You could have him or someone else say it and tell them the information. You did not need the Great Gazoo in this. He was irritating. He was in the way. He didn't bring anything to the table. He wasn't funny. And no one gave a flying fuck about him. So, he's one of my critiques of the film. Is there interesting, again, designs of the Flintstones environment like the first one? Sure. There's a bit where they go over a bridge and a dinosaur kind of leans down and stays there while they go over the bridge and goes along the dinosaur's back. There's some iffy CG, but there's some good puppetry. I was surprised that there's some decent puppetry. Like, and it's Jim Henson. So I'm like, okay, of course. I'm a fan of Jim Henson's company. Rest in peace to Jim Henson himself, but his son seems to be doing well for himself. Of course, they did the first 2 Ninja Turtle films. They did various other projects. I believe they worked on the first one. So they do the baby Dino, the puppetry on that. There's the octopus that massages Betty and Wilma's back, voiced by Rosie O'Donnell. Thankfully, it's only like one line she says. There's a bird, like when they're going through the carnival, there's a bird kind of doing this, which I thought was kind of cute. The pterodactyl kind of do this like an artist would, and then pecks a drawing out for them. I thought that was cute and kind of creative. I like the puppetry work. I don't know, I kind of chuckle when the pterodactyl was kind of doing this, like an artist would, so I don't know. So there are moments of cuteness with the Jim Henson puppetry with that. That, along with the actors, for the most part, Mark Addy, the girl who played Betty, even Stephen Baldwin to a point, were doing, decent impressions. It's kind of when they start falling in love. And then the kind of like a little montage. They gotta go to Wilma's rich family, and then there's this banquet, and it was cool to see John Cho, because I'm a big John Cho fan. I love the film Searching. I like all 3 Harold and Kumar films, so it was cool to see. I'm like, oh shit, it's John Cho. Because they don't know what a valet is, and she's trying to explain what a valet is. No, he parks the car. Oh, okay. But then it becomes like the typical things that you've seen done dozens of times. That with these tropes and the common stuff, which, granted, what I like about this over the first film is that Barney and Fred are friends for the entire movie. And for the most part, they're together as a team for good chunks of it. And I like that. Not split apart because they hate each other. It's like, I don't want to see that. Even as a guy that's a vague watcher, of that show. Like, I don't want to see that, at least me. But I think it was nice to see them together. Do they have the chemistry John Goodman and Rick Moranis have? No. That's why part of me kind of would have been interested to see what those two would have done with this plot. But the writing, it kind of peters out in the second half. I think the Rock Vegas stuff, they did not get nearly out of that location as they could have. Like, what would be their version of Siegfried and Roy? What would there be their version of, all the stuff you think of Vegas? They could have done a lot more with that location. There could have been a lot more satire of Vegas, a lot more parody of Vegas. There's a lot more they could have done. Maybe like there's the Wayne Newton stuff, but maybe like there's a pterodactyl, it's like someone that sings for, maybe there's like a guy and then he's got like a dinosaur who sings for him, and it's like a take on a ventriloquist. Okay, that's a shitty idea. I'm just trying to think of stuff like, if you give me, give me a few hours with a group of people, would you come up with some interesting ideas of what we could do to really bring this Rock Vegas location to life? And I don't think they did that. So I think, and people don't always got the puns. Again, that's the cartoon. The cartoon was filled with those kind of puns. So if you're mad at this, they did a lot of that in the cartoons. Again, Barney, I don't like that they made him more of a fucking idiot. Where there's like a point where he's like spitting food, like, so the guy can't eat fucking food. First off, if there's a guy I think would eat more food, it'd be Fred, not Barney. Second off, the villain is making Barney over here so he could get away from helping Fred and making sure Fred doesn't screw himself over. And he's with the villain's secretary, and Barney's like spit all over it. I got food on me. I'm like, what the fuck? Like, you're on your special bus? And then Betty sees this, doesn't bother to ask a single fucking question, just assumes, oh my god, he's talking to a lady? Shit, he must be cheating on me. I'm like, are you fucking serious? So if he, imagine if it was the other way around. Imagine if he saw her talking to a guy who was maybe a friend or something, and he went up and said, what the fuck you doing? He'd be labeled an asshole. But, she's like, I could ask, who is she? What's going on? He would explain the situation in less than 30 seconds, but no, she acts like a fucking idiot. And Betty at times as a character is squirrel. It's just, she's with Fred, that, oh my god, me and you have the same laugh, so now she's with Barney. Oh, you're talking to a girl, and you're, okay, I'm gonna go with this guy, this wannabe Mick Jagger, which I didn't care for that parody. I thought that was a lame one. And it's like, Mick Jagger really, and if you don't have a thing on Las Vegas, have it be Wayne Newton. How cast Wayne Newton and have him be like an old, be Wayne Newton, not fucking a wannabe fake Mick Jagger. How the fuck do you not get Wayne Newton out of, but whatever. That's just, So yeah, Betty, like, again, the writing. Betty just flip-flopping everywhere. So Betty just seems like an idiot. Barney just seems too stupid. The bad guy, so he wants to marry Wilma for the money, her family's money, because he owes it to the mob, or whoever the hell these guys are. But he literally has a switch, where he does this, and it's called lose, and it gives the other dinosaurs, whatever, with the cards, to make them lose. Why don't you fucking do that, and you would get all your fucking money within a goddamn week or so? Or hell, one fucking day will probably give you enough fucking money. Let alone one, or hell, you want to stretch it out 1 week. Doing that 1 week should give you all the fucking money you need. You own a fucking casino that you can make a switch and make people lose. So what the fuck? I mean, but you need Wilma's family's money. What the fuck? How does that make sense? And it just feels, someone said it's like if you took like 2 or 3 episodes and you jam them together. I do see that. There's the episode where they meet and fall in love. There's the episode of Rock Vegas, and the episode where loses money, gets framed, and gets out of jail. And they feel loosely connected, and the villain was lame, and it feels like a direct-to-video plot. So, yeah, obviously with both Flintstones films, at least this Fred and Wilma meeting, that was kind of cute and stuff. So I'd probably say I like the plot in this more than the 94 film. But the 94 film, it's funny, the 94 film cost less, but a little like there was more polish, cinematography-wise. Both films have good, like, some decent set design and stuff, but the first film just looked more theatrical and polished. I don't know how to put it, even though they had less money. I don't know how, but whatever. But yeah, the Great Gazoo is completely didn't need to be there. I liked, again, Thomas Gibson has this bird that shoots out, can hit button and flies back, and sometimes huffs and puffs when he gotta go. But then they give him a voice, and he's like, "Brother's gotta have a little nest egg." And I'm like, who are you trying to sound like? What you talking about, Willis? Then, then they get framed, they get put in jail, and they do the whole thing that they could go through, Barney can go through the bars and doesn't realize it. That joke was funny in Hot Shots Part 2, when Richard Crenna is trying to lean through to get the keys, and then leads all the way back, gets the keys, comes back, and he still unlocks the door instead of walking through it. It was funnier in that than in this. And then the ending, it's spoilers. Barney goes to Betty and goes, "Hey, can we actually have a conversation?" "Oh, wow, okay. The person you were talking to was the Thomas Gibson's secretary? Oh, yeah. If you had bothered to talk." And they get away. And the fake Mick Jagger I didn't think was funny. I didn't think it was offensive or anything. It wasn't offensive. I just didn't think it was funny. That was kind of lazy and, like, whatever. Making fun of his lips, okay. And then Fred, they're both dressed as women, just to be like dancers. So they're both, cross-dressing. Fred goes up, sings, apologizes to Wilma. She says, okay. Then everything's fine. They get married. They have the Flintstones theme song. They drive away with celebration. Gazoo, I guess, learned the mating rituals. Then the movie's over. Again, is this one of the worst films I've ever seen? No. I can appreciate some of the dinosaur puppetry by Jim Henson. Some of the ways they try to work in the Stone Age, the setting, the environments. I think some of the environments are interesting to the people who built them. The set design and some of the stuff. I think Mark Addy and Stephen Baldwin, they give decent impressions voice-wise of the characters. It's only 80-some minutes long, although I still think it felt too long. And I think them meeting, fall in love, how they all started. I mean, it was kind of cute to watch. But halfway through, it dragged. They were running more and more out of plot. The plot they did have, which is tropes you've seen before. The villain is, his whole scheme was pretty lame. I thought the ending, like the last third of the film, was kind of just seemed like a shitty episode of the cartoon. Great Gazoo, fucking pointless, nightmare fuel to look at, a bit annoying to listen to. Wish he was cut out of the movie. And just didn't feel it had the polish that the first one had. So I would say, like, I don't like either of these Flintstones films. So I don't know which would be. I think most would say the first one's better. But I like the plot more in this one. But I like the polish and the two leads more in the first one. But this definitely has the better Betty. Just fucking can't stand Rosie O'Donnell. At least they're, Fred and Barney are friends throughout the whole fucking thing. But the first one doesn't have Gazoo. So I'm like, I would rather watch neither one, but it is what it is. $80-some million for this movie. I know the first one made money, but I don't know. I mean, I guess they really thought that the name value would really perk people up. I guess what they didn't expect is, yeah, people saw the first film. That does not mean everybody liked the first film. All that money that went to the first film, they're talking about a chunk of those people that did not like the movie. So, okay, say you made this much money in the first film. This amount of people might have liked it. Made money, but this many liked it to get a second go around. Maybe this much, maybe this much, maybe this much, maybe this much, you don't know. But people tend to forget that. Okay? So that's just the way it is. With that said, didn't think this review would be that long, but it is what it is. Thanks for watching. Take care. We'll see you guys later. Bye-bye for now.